views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Welcome to Public Health America, a 30-minute program on BronxNet where we talk with national experts to promote health and social justice. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. We begin by focusing on a current health topic from the COVID pandemic to cardiovascular disease. Our goal is to provide you with not only the best science, but practical tips to live a healthier life. On Public Health America, we also celebrate what studies have long documented, namely the unparalleled value of a college education by setting the stage to pursue a career of your choice, increase lifetime earnings and opportunity, and champion the ability to engage in civil debate. But for many, finding a path to college is neither clear nor certain. What if you're a high school student with supportive parents but feel daunted by the prospect of being the first in your family to attend college? What if you're a single mother or father and want to attend college but have no childcare? On Public Health America, our expert will also talk about decisions they made and support they received that helped them beat the odds. By sharing one or two life lessons, their stories may provide you with the inspiration and method to realize your dreams. This is Public Health America. Welcome to Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Marie-Joane Cardin, Assistant Professor in the Department of Pediatrics and Clinical Psychologist at Montefiore. Marie, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
No, our pleasure. So you've been doing some important work on learning disabilities, a very highly prevalent condition in childhood and adulthood. Tell us about the work you're doing.
So the program that I run is a program where we work with kids who have learning disabilities and comorbid mental health diagnoses. So anywhere from some ADHD, autism, anxiety, depression. And the idea is instead of just providing academic remediation, we're also addressing the stress, the anxiety, and the depression that often comes with those learning disabilities as well.
That sounds important. Tell us about the prevalence. I remember in days of yore when I was more expert on these things, Russell Barkley, Joe Biederman talked about a distribution of attention deficit disorder and dyslexia, and that it depended on how you defined it, but they defined it less than 5% of the population. And then if you look at public schools, there's kind of an explosion of ADHD and LD and other kinds of things. What's your sense of that? What is the true prevalence of learning disabilities and ADHD?
So it again depends very much on what the diagnoses you have seen, or the definition of the diagnosis people use. So if we just take reading disabilities, I know it can go anywhere from 5% to 15 to 20% of children will have a reading diagnosis. So it really depends on what definition the research is using. But in terms of kids who have reading diagnoses and ADHD, kids who have reading diagnoses are 4 times more likely to have ADHD.
Fair enough. So tell us about the work you're doing in terms of identifying assessment and intervention.
Yes, so our program is part of a much larger clinic in which we see all kids with developmental disabilities. So these parents bring their child in for concerns of anywhere from learning disorders, speech difficulties, or autism. And in that evaluation, we assess their psychological testing. So any cognitive testing, we'll do social emotional testing. We'll also do academic testing, and then any adaptive or other assessments that we need if there's other questions. From there, they end up receiving their diagnoses and then recommendations on what to do from there.
And are you working with individual families, or are you working with school systems? What is who is sending you their children?
So it's a variety. So most of them are self-referred by the parents. Some of the parents do hear of us from schools or other family members who have come through our program before. But it's a variety. We mainly work with the families, although when the families ask us to step in or help out with the school, we will join meetings, especially if the school's allowing us. We like to partner with the schools to give the kid the best help that they need.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about the interventions you're doing.
Yes. So we have 3 different programs within our program. So our first program is strictly just working on how to read, so how to decode. And that we use the Wilson reading system here. So basically that takes anything from, we get them to learn their sounds and how they associate with the letters. And then we need to help them make those connections. Everything is color coded. So the vowels are one color, the consonants are color coded so that they can use that multisensory aspect to help them remember and cue what they're doing. Then we put those sounds together into words, still using the little magnetic blocks. Then we present them with the actual word by itself. Then we put the words within a group of words and then in sentences. So everything just builds on itself within different within the one session. And then while we're doing that, as soon as anxiety comes into play, we stop and we start talking about what's going on within their body. How are they feeling the anxiety? Helping them learn that language for their emotion. And then as they start to pick up and understand this, we move on to what are the coping skills that they can use while they're feeling that anxiety. And then we always return back to the academics, so the reading that's happening in that moment. The idea is we never want them to avoid, because the more they avoid, the harder it is going to be for them to keep doing the things that are hard for them. So that's one program, is the reading. Then we have reading comprehension, where we really teach them what they're supposed to be doing before they start reading so they can get prepared to read. And then learning how to do bullet points and identifying the main ideas of each paragraph, how to take notes so that when they go back and they don't necessarily remember what they've read, they can just look at their notes rather than having to reread the entire thing that they have read already. And then we have our math kids that we do a lot of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's mainly where the deficits we're seeing is involved. And from there, after they've completed that, normally then they're able to go out and get the help they need for the more advanced math. And all of that, we do the therapeutic stuff within.
That sounds like a great curriculum. I'm not surprised, but I am impressed. What's the age range of the children you tend to work with?
So our clinic is anywhere from 7 to 21. Right now, most of our children and adolescents, I think our youngest, they both just turned 13. And our oldest is 17 at the moment. Normally when kids enter our program, they don't want to leave, or the parents don't want them to leave. So they're with us for a while. So as they get older and come out, then we get another group of young kids, and then we just keep following them.
And, because of my familiarity with, clinics, it's usually difficult to have a research component unless you have funding. Do you have a way to track empirically the efficacy of the interventions that you're implementing?
So that's one thing that we are starting to try to figure out. We've submitted our IRB approval, or our pre-IRB approval, for doing a retrospective study on past data that we have. So given that we are part of the clinic, we do have to progress monitor, like that. We want to see if things are going well. However, we haven't done anything more formal on evaluating that progress that we have. So our hopes is to, with that, set up some sort of research project that shows the efficacy of our research, or our work here.
That's great. I think that would be a wonderful compliment. It's so hard. It's difficult to do, amidst all the clinical work that you're doing, but, it's helpful to know what works. And, what might not work. What do you see as the next steps of your work? What are the boundaries that what are the challenges you face that might delimit the work that you're doing?
So one of the biggest challenge that we have is just there's few staff that are able to do or are hired to do what we are doing here. So a lot of my work here is trying to build awareness of the program. Not necessarily, obviously, it would be great to expand our program and get more staff here, but I would also like that this program is known elsewhere, and that these types of programs can start happening in other clinics or within the schools. I think if it was within the schools, that might be the best place to it, because it's really happening in vitro. You'd be able to push into the classrooms and things like that to really try to see what's happening emotionally with the kids, and then not letting them avoid the academics.
Got it. 1 minute left. What would you say is the most important aspect of your intervention that facilitates change in children and adolescents that have learning disabilities, ADHD, and comorbid disorders?
I think the most important thing is just being there and letting the kids express what it is that they're going through, letting them be mad about academics, giving them the idea that it's okay that they don't like it. They don't need to like reading. They don't need to enjoy going to school. It's hard for them, and it makes sense that they don't enjoy that. What we're trying to do is get them to be able to go through that, because as they go through life, they're going to hit things that they have to do that they won't like, and giving them those skills. So showing them that they can do that, and they don't have to pretend that everything is rainbow and unicorns, as one kid told me, and can just do it and go.
Sure. That makes a lot of sense. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Dr. Marie-Joane Cardin is going to tell us a little bit about her personal life story that allowed her to embark on this excellent career. This is Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. We'll be right back.
We built a media network for you.
BronxNet TV.
Come learn in your new state-of-the-art studios at Lehman College.
At Mercy College.
And coming soon to the South Bronx in the Hub.
Inspire with your stories, culture, history.
Your Bronx on BronxNet.
Engage with us.
Connect with us at your channels and at bronxnet.tv.
Learn, engage, inspire. BronxNet TV.
From the Bronx
to the world.
BronxNet.
TV news, radio reports, and newspaper headlines in the 1970s and 80s misrepresented communities in the borough of the Bronx. Then, something transformative happened. By, for, and about the Bronx, BronxNet was born.
We are BronxNet! BronxNet provides media education,
opening the doors to competitive careers in the media industry
for thousands of students in middle school,
high school,
and college.
BronxNet.
Welcome back to Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. We're here with Dr. Marie-Joane Cardin. Marie, so we always start this part of the segment with the same question. Where were you born and what were some of your formative experiences?
So I was originally born in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. My family is French Canadian, and at 3 years old, I ended up moving to Los Angeles, then Nashville at 5, and then Maryland at 10, where I spent most of my life until college. So that, I think, just moving around was a lot of my childhood. But once I was in Maryland, given that we're Canadian, my dad coached hockey, my brother played hockey, so I started coaching, and it was kind of there that I started getting the sense and picking up that kids have self-esteem issues in learning, and so I was always paired with the kids who were having the most trouble learning. And then from there, I ended up going to college mainly for hockey. But that's where I started really seeing and getting into the psychological aspect. So thinking I was always going to end up being a sports psychologist. But I was always drawn to the kids when I was coaching that had the hardest time. And I guess in some way, without fully understanding that that's what I was into, but I was into the learning aspect of things. So trying to figure out how to combine those two.
Was it, that's an interesting story. Was it difficult moving around in the early years?
So I think when I was young, I thought it was just normal. So I didn't necessarily pay attention to it. But I do, once I got to middle school, a lot of my friends had been friends since they were 3 or 5. So being able to fit into groups was difficult. I also, given that I played ice hockey at that time in Maryland, very few girls played. I think there were 2 other girls that played at the same time as me. So that was very, very different compared to what the rest of the girls were doing. So fitting in was a little bit harder from there. Sure.
Where in Maryland were you?
The Frederick area. So about an hour from Baltimore, hour from DC.
Know it well. So where did you do your undergrad?
I went to Wesleyan University.
Great college. What'd you major in and what was your experience like there?
So I did a double major. I did neuroscience and behavior and psychology. I had a great experience. I mean, I went there, not necessarily how I would advocate picking a college, but I went there for the hockey. So I wanted to play ice hockey at college. And so I picked that school from there, but it ended up being I think the best choice for me, just the atmosphere there, the time that they took in terms of helping us learn and helping us study. And so even though at the beginning I struggled with certain of my classes, just the time and being able to meet with the teachers, go over what was going wrong, quickly turned that around. And then having that aspect of being both a student athlete or a student and an athlete at the same time was I think, really great. I don't know how else to, it sounds a little corny, but no other way to explain it.
Sure. It doesn't sound corny at all. Doing athletics during college is I think, an incredibly powerful, positive thing. And clearly for you, it was. So what were some of the positive things academically at Wesleyan that helped you to succeed? And tell us how that might have led, or just what was your path after undergrad?
Yeah, so I think Wesleyan had a lot of different student areas that students like to congregate, and especially there was one library where it wasn't necessarily, yes, you have to be quieter in a library, but there was one library where it was known to be a little more noisy. And that library allowed us to meet there and do study groups and not necessarily have to worry about being too loud for others. So we all knew we were all going there to study. And just having that open atmosphere to be able to just congregate with the other students and go over your study guides together and kind of talk things through, is I find that's a great way to learn rather than just doing it on your own. Just itself being such a small campus, it was able to just go through being able to see your teachers and go up to your professors anytime you needed. I don't think I remember the second half of your question. I'm sorry.
No, I think you, that's okay. I think you covered it. Where did you go next after undergrad?
So then I went to Faircroft Graduate School of Psychology. That's part of Yeshiva University. And studied, that's where I ended up doing clinical school child school clinical psychology, because I did, as I said, I wanted to do the combination of both psychology and learning. So getting as much training in both what happens in a school versus in the clinical field for psychology was important.
So I want to come back to one thing you said a bit ago. You were one of 2 or 3 young women or girls who played hockey in an era where not many did. What was that like?
That was, so personally, while I was on the ice, I didn't always see so much the difference, although I do always say that there were 3 different kind of boys that I played with. So there was the boys who just treated you as any other hockey player, and there was no give or take with that. There were certain boys who, in some sense, were respectful and wouldn't touch you and wouldn't go near you. So once I did get to the age of checking, they wouldn't check me, they wouldn't hit me, so I could skate through the ice. Although I didn't always go with that one, because I wanted the competition. I was playing for a reason. And then there was the other side where boys took a little extra harsh hit on me just because I was a girl on the ice. But I knew going in that's what it was supposed to be. I think the hardest thing was when I was off the ice and hanging out with my friends. I would have practice 5 times a week. And then going in the next day at school wouldn't really feel like putting on jeans and makeup and everything, because I was tired from the night before and my practice, doing my homework and getting to school. So having friends tell me, well, no, you're a girl, you're supposed to dress in jeans, you're supposed to be wearing dresses right now. And I would be showing up in sweatpants, just because that's what I wanted to wear to school. So
I have 3 school-age daughters. I have to say that if anyone checked my daughter, I would be very, very, very upset. How did that work?
Well, my dad being a hockey player and a pretty tough coach, I think he kind of built me in a way where I knew what to expect. They at first didn't want me to play hockey because they didn't want me to go through not only being the only girl on the ice, but it is a very physical sport. But I bagged and said I was the only one that wasn't on the ice. And so I wanted to go on the ice. And then my dad was like, no, okay, so this is what you signed up this is what you need to get ready for. And of course, as I got older, I knew maybe going into the corners wasn't so smart because all the boys were now much, much bigger than me. So, we would have plays and stuff like that I'd let a teammate go, and then I would be supporting in some other way. So there was a little bit of smarts that went into it, but I knew what I signed up for.
Sure. What's fascinating about your story, Marie, is it's kind of like and forgive me to oversimplify, the intersection of gender, Title IX, athletics in college and in high school, you were brave enough and athletic enough and talented enough to play a very, very physical sport. It's we want everything to be equal, and I think that's a noble and just cause. You're the expert. How do we do this? How do we support how do we support young women to have the full component of athletics and the ability to do what they want to do? How do we do that?
I think just making it accessible to them. And like when you have, so I remember when I was school and they would meet for clubs and what are different types of clubs, they would kind of pigeonhole people in place and be like, oh, you should go to this one. This sounds more up your alley. And often sports are left out of the ones for girls, at least when I was growing up. I'm hoping now it's less so, as I am seeing more and more girls play ice hockey. But I think it's just making it accessible and having them have the opportunity to go. And if it's at the beginning, having just the girls go to the gym to try out the hockey equipment or the whatever equipment it is there. And then later bringing in both genders there to try it out together so that there's no feelings of like, oh no, I need to let the boys do that and not me do that. I don't necessarily think it's anything too special, just allowing it to be available for them.
So access.
Yes.
Very good. So what would you say were the one or two things during your college and or post-undergraduate experience that were critical to help you achieve and move on to the next phase of your career?
That's a good question. I think having people around me supporting me and letting me know that it was okay to ask for help, that it was okay to not know everything, to not be okay all the time. And then getting that courage to go ask whoever it is, whether it's a professor or an older student, to help you guide through the program. College and post-grad school is very confusing in some sense. There are a lot of moving parts that you're not necessarily fully prepped for. But I think being able to know that you can go ask for help and there are people there to help you, guide you through it, that was kind of like the saving grace.
So the importance of a caring and wise mentor. I want to thank Dr. Marie-Joane Cardin, assistant professor in the Department of Pediatrics at Montefiore. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. This is Public Health America. I'm your host, Dr. William Latimer. See you next time. Take care.